So now I'm going to open the floor up to all the participants to see if you have any questions that you want to ask any of the evaluators or test speakers or me, and then we'll end the workshop. So we're going to open the floor. If you have a question you want to ask, you could raise your hand or you can type in the chat room if I don't call on you. So does anyone have any questions they want to ask? Or, oh, Alice, I see a hand. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So, I have do some evaluations before, and for me, I often have a broad idea of what the speakers is talking about, but for some details, maybe because I'm too busy taking notes or some other problems, I couldn't really understand those or remember those details. So for me, I often feel not sure if I misunderstood what the speaker means. And in that situation, I often really don't know how to, maybe I should talk about that to confirm with the speakers on the stage or else. So I would like to ask me to Dalun, in this situations, what would you do?
Sorry, though, the question is, when you take notes, you might miss main points of the speech. How do you balance that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the easy answer is you record the speech. Usually in a club situation, we record the speech, and then so that we have something to cheat on. But I think for me, and all three evaluators, please feel free to chip in because you're much more experienced. But for me personally, it's a difficult balance. I think it's like going back to the student days where you want to listen to the teacher, but at the same time you want to jot down things that you want to say, that you want to remember. But I think in lieu of I mean, if you have to choose between one of them, I would say focus on the speech, because it's the speech that you're evaluating, not your notes. So if you have to choose, really focus on trying to understand the speech, because if you have great notes but you didn't understand, you miss the delivery, you miss the way that he made a joke, then you're missing out a big chunk of things. So if you can, try to focus on the speech and jot things down if need to, because the great things will come back in your memory. I think that's more important. Does that answer your question, Alice?
Just to throw in thoughts too.
Yes, Douglas.
Alice, I would make sure you organize your notes a consistent way. Like I always have like, oh, on top, it's a general note. These are good. These are suggestions for improvement. And I just write a little bit there, but I've already organized it. And that way I don't have to write much and I can spend more time listening and just jot a few words, you know. But so I would give yourself sections. That way, when you have more time during break, you can organize and expand it. You'll still remember the speech at intermission.
Great. Okay. Did Paul or Lester want to chip in?
I usually just lock into one thing that I want to express, and then I'll build my evaluation around that. So today was, remember to live your stories, don't tell your stories. And then I'll think of, okay, when I look at the speech as a whole, you know, what parts match my message to Iris? Like for me, I hope Iris can live the story. So what can I bring in from the speech? What was in the speech that showed her living the story, and what was missing from the speech, and what could she add to help her live the story more? That's what I do. I just find like one thing I want to focus on. I don't believe in overwhelming people with too much stuff. So just give them like one tip that they can take away, and then just find the things that support that argument.
Great.
I would say to Alice that the very fact that you were not clear on a certain point and were confused is something that you can use in your evaluation, because the speaker does need to know that the way you put something or the order that you put your facts, that if it's not clear, a lot of times you think something very simple, oh, they should understand it. And yet people hear things in so many different ways. So I think as an evaluator, it is important to let them know this point I was confused. I couldn't even remember the key points and it was muddled. And maybe you could spend a little more time to make that, be able to restate it or use a picture or a graph or something to help the audience understand better. So I think that's one of the reflections. It's very important to a speaker to know how the audience took it and what they found not clear, as well as the good points.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thank you. Thank you to 3 evaluators. We have 3 hands up. Let's go to Teresa from SHTC.
Hi, thank you very much for the wonderful evaluation. And I have a question for Jalon, because the evaluation has been my weakness. And I try to overcome my weakness, but because of the poor memory. So sometimes I just couldn't put everything in mind when I was giving the evaluation. So would you be kind to share your PowerPoint with us?
Oh, sure. I will be happy to share. I'm actually, as VPM, sorry, different hat, collecting our guest emails. So if you either join our Facebook group or send us your email, I'll happily share my slides.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Were there any questions, Teresa, or was it just getting the slides?
I think that's the main thing. I need more time to practice. So I need to gather more tips from the excellent speakers.
Yes, it's always practice, practice, practice. Lila or Lila? Sorry. Lila, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I have the question about the slide. There was a point at the section language, and there is actually one mentioning visual imaginary. I'm not sure what kind of visual imaginary were you going to describe? So can you please talk about more?
Okay, I had used an excellent speech that Gina, are you here? Had used. For example, when she was giving the very first speech, you know, she had used the fact that she was telling about her story in Singapore, where, you know, her colleagues took her out drinking and she didn't think she would drink, but then she drank and then she vomited. So she was called the vomiting volcano. So you could visualize a vomiting volcano, and that's what
was beauty volcano.
Was it beauty? Sorry, I
Beauty
thought vomiting volcano.
Okay.
What was it, Gina? Unmute yourself.
No, never mind. I mean, the speech title was Beauty Volcano, but what I used, the word I used, it was exactly erupting volcano.
Okay.
So it's similar to vomiting volcano. Yeah.
Well, see, it's been a while. It's been a few months, but see, everybody in the club remembered it, okay, as a beauty volcano or a volcano that's erupting, you know, so you can see that's a very visual use of the word. And that's what I'm saying, you know, if someone had used a word that stuck in your mind, that painted a picture, it's something that's worth mentioning. So that's what I mean, a visual imagery, because words are abstract, but if they are able to get yourself to imagine a picture, that's excellent use of words. So that's what I meant.
Okay, so it's like use a word to give the audience to imagine what kind of picture is the story about, right?
Yes, it's use of words to paint the story.
Okay.
Paint a visual story.
I posted a link to the video in the comment section.
You know you're gonna be famous.
So you can go look at the
Across
speech.
the world as the beauty volcano. I'm sorry, I used the wrong word. But you see how effective your speech was. Yes, but did Lester or Douglas or Paul wants to add to, you know, use of words or use of, you know, painting imagery in the speeches?
Yeah, I mean, it could be an image like Gina did really wonderfully, or if it's just a phrase. Like I would urge anyone, you know, speeches become very, very memorable with any short phrase. You know, in Paul's, "Can I help you?" My contest speech, I made sure I latched on, you know, a bird that can't fly. Just anything that is like a really kind of striking phrase. It can be an image or it could be an idea too. But looking for that, using that and calling that out.
Yes.
I'm thinking of the time that when Queenie shared her speech about cancer, and she was sitting there and she took her hat off. And I think that was something that was, really hits you as far as the seriousness of the situation and the depth of the trial. So yeah, things that you can do using a prop or something at hand when you're up there. Like if you're, hitting a wall where you can actually push up against the wall and make
anything that brings memorable. Oops, we're back on. So, okay. Does that answer your question, Lila?
Recording stopped.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Lila. Eric, you're up next.
I have a question.
Eric, I want to see your face.
No, I'm naked.
Even better.
Some images
Smeared
you
in
don't
Nutella.
want to
Smeared in
remember,
Nutella.
people.
Come
I'm
on, we
living
want
the
to remember
story.
you, Eric.
I'm living the story right now. I think for clubs, it's important. I noticed, especially in TGIF and Born to Shine, we assign specific evaluators for ice breaking and icebreaker and less experienced speakers. And I think there's a reason for that. And I just wanted to hear from the three evaluators, as well as Jalwin, what your suggestions are when you're giving evaluations for less experienced or first-time speakers. Thank you.
Can I go?
Yes, please go, Paul.
I pinned Eric, unfortunately. Okay. For myself, when
I'm hearing echo, Paul.
Oh, okay. Let me just.
Do you want to? I think there are two of you. I'm here.
Okay. Now it's okay.
Yep, it's good.
So for me, I'm not a very nice evaluator for more experienced speakers. For myself, like as speakers get more and more experienced, then they should develop the skills. And if not developing the skills, then I will become a very, very harsh evaluator. But mostly the thing I look for in a speech, any speech from a C1 to whatever level, is do they care? Like, do they actually care about what they're doing, or they're just coming to do another pathway speech? I have no interest in helping or evaluating people who don't care, just coming there to tick off boxes. I want to evaluate people who care about their speeches and really make an effort to write their speeches, to prepare their speeches, to deliver their speeches, really care about their audience. And so for me, like if a speaker comes up and I can see they've really, really tried, but the speech is kind of bombed, that's okay with me and I can work with that. But certainly if I see somebody just get up there very blasé, and I'm sure people in my club have seen me do it, if somebody gets up there blasé, doesn't really care about the speech or what they're meant to be doing, I will become a very, very harsh evaluator. And so that's what I think. Like when I look at speakers, I want them to care, because this is a volunteer organization. We all take our time. It's our time, and even when I'm in the audience, they're taking up our time. So no speaker should ever abuse that time. And so I think that's the thing I'd say. Like as an evaluator, I just want them to care about what they're doing. And fortunately, most speakers do. Fortunately, most do.
Great, thank you, Paul. Lester, did you want to add in? I think he was asking.
I think the question was specifically about giving evaluations to young, inexperienced speakers. And I think especially the icebreaker speech.
Well, they don't have to be young. They don't have to be young.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They could be old like you, right?
Or even
anyway.
Even
yeah. So to give them confidence is really important. To really find something that's you can compliment, and also to give them encouragement to keep on going, because I think we've heard of these horror stories to where someone gave their icebreaker speech and the evaluation was pretty harsh and they never came back again. So find good things to talk about, and of course help them improve, but to help build their confidence, I think is a very important part for their first speeches.
Yeah, I mean, I think any evaluation, it's not at all about the evaluator. It's all about the speaker and what the speaker needs. And in a new speaker, they just took a massive step of getting in front of a room and exposing themselves and being vulnerable. So I'll definitely bend over backwards to meaningfully find the things they really did in substance very well and compliment specifically so that they know it's real. And then other than that, yeah, you're just seeing what do they think they need to take the next step forward. It might be something simple, but they might start great and it's something more advanced. But it's really trying to tune into where they are and kind of build them up, give them confidence, but then find the next thing that they can work on that feels achievable to them. They, you know, you're not asking a new speaker to do something you might ask an advanced speaker. You're asking, hey, look at the audience and you'll really connect more. It's something that they'll come away saying, yeah, I could do that.
Just to add on, for specifically icebreaker speeches, I think that, I'm not sure, Simone's on, she can probably give more guidance on this, but for me, when you look at actually the old manuals, it was very clear in the old manuals what an icebreaker speech was. And an icebreaker speech was just to identify the speaking skills that a speaker already had. And so I think if you are evaluating an icebreaker, like somebody doing their very first, not their 10th icebreaker, but their very first icebreaker speech, I always think evaluators focus too much on, oh, you didn't tell us this about your life, or you could have told us more about your school. No, it's what speaking skills did you have and what speaking skills did you display? I think that's the important part of an icebreaker speech if you're evaluating a first icebreaker speech.
Yep, I think that sums up everybody. I think I have nothing to add. It's I think it's important as an evaluator to understand, you know, who you're giving an evaluation to. I mean, experience is one, but there are some, you know, speakers that are more sensitive than the others. So when you give a speech, you know, how incisive you want to be, or how blunt, how direct, or how roundabout way. I mean, it depends on the receiver. If you know the receiver ahead of time, if not, I think it's always to play safe and to, you know, to be a little bit more balanced, or to give your feedback in a more constructive manner. Yeah. So thank you. 3 very wonderful feedback. So we have Iris, you have a question.
Yes, we always said that stage time is very precious, so it's very important to prepare a speech with a clear core value. My question is, would core value only with one message or could be more than one? Because when I'm preparing this message, my purpose is to express partly the friendship, the love, and the second part is the importance of keep healthy. So would that be impossible that we could have 2 core value message?
Lester, do you want to answer that one? Because I think
Sure.
core value is one of the main evaluation you gave, Iris.
Yeah, so core value on the love side, I think that is that you use as your core, but to be healthy, could be in your conclusion as a call to action. So I think it's not separating out the core value, but it's also at the very end, giving the audience something to take away that you can practice. You know, like you all have a refrigerator, and use the refrigerator as that reminder that every time you open that door, stay healthy, what you put in, what you eat, and what you're putting into your body, because if that's what you want to have the audience as a takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't detract from the love, but you gave the audience a call to action.
Yeah, and I think there's often a way, even if it's just a little bit, to kind of link the themes, because you can talk about love and friendship, and then when you get to the healthy, and it's not just for other people. Show love to yourself. show friendship to yourself and take care of yourself through eating. Like usually you can somehow hook them together, even if it's not super strong. There's usually a way, and that helps people remember it.
For myself, I just think one core value in a speech. So as Doug said, or Lester said, like there might be ways to connect, but I think, you know, if you're going to give a speech, I think you just ask yourself a simple question: what do I want people to remember from the speech 10 years later? And so I'll give you an example. 2016, second place international speech champion Jason Ho from Taichung. He said these iconic words. We were all born to do something. We were all born to do something amazing. I was born to dance. What were you born to do? I've never forgotten those words. I heard the speech once. I've never forgotten those words. Iconic words. I cannot remember what Hai Shuo Li's core message was in that speech. He won that year. I can remember the speech itself, but not his message. But I can remember Jason's message. What were you born to do? And so I think if you really want to be a memorable speaker, a single core message with a catchphrase that encapsulates that core message will set you apart from everybody.
Great. All right, thank you. I think it's always a balance. You know, I think we always want to give a lot in one speech, but would people remember it? I think it's a delicate balance, and so it depends on what you want in a speech. And I really agree with Paul, who said if you want someone to remember, you know, pounding on one and repeating it might be the most effective. Okay, Gina, you have a question.
Yes, during regular meeting, I mean regular physical meeting, we sometimes see people, evaluators bring along some notes, no matter a piece of paper or using iPhones. However, during an official contest, this is definitely not allowed. So any tips for such preparation? Is it a matter of practice or just a matter of doctor visit, you need to take some pill to improve your memory?
I don't think there's a rule. I think in a contest you can also use notes. Simone, am I wrong?
No, you're right. In a contest, you can actually receive an A4 size piece of paper where you can scribble things on it. You can bring that paper up to the stage. But I think for a lot of veteran Toastmasters, the challenge has always been, you know, go up without your notes and try to speak. So that's why, you know, pulling out main points is so important, and then you just speak around the main points. But I think, I mean, I don't think you get points deducted or an evaluation is any less worthwhile if you bring notes onto the stage. I think the key is how you deliver it and how it's received. So I think either way works as long as you get your message across. Yeah. Anything to add, Lester and Douglas, on this one?
In a contest, I don't. You can break notes but you probably won't win. I mean, it's
you probably won't win. Yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, it's a pretty fine line. There's a lot of awesome evaluators. So I always will boil it down to, okay, this thing, and then the 3 good points, and then these 2 suggestions. Like, just construct like the bullet points you're going to cover and go up and then speak to it. Just because it's too distracting to be looking at notes at that level of thing.
Yeah, you're right, but you are allowed to use notes. Though.
You are allowed to use notes.
Yeah, it
Absolutely.
is. And
I completely agree with you.
Yeah, it's always about.
Lester, your tip?
Well, I stand in awe of people like Paul and Neil Stovacek, who just has such an incredible memory. I have not been blessed with an incredible memory. And generally for the club evaluations, there's so much going on, and you know, I've got attention deficit disorder and so interested in everything that I don't get that really deep concentration. And so how do you make your notes useful, right? So basically maybe write down a few big keywords, which you can 1, 2, 3 that helps you to jump along from one idea to the other. You could write it on your hand. I think, you know, that's another way. But I do find in a contest where you're sequestered and you're in a quiet room and then you have your thoughts to yourself and you can just shut everything out and the adrenaline's running, I think it's a little easier to memorize what you're going to say during that time. But you know, until you can really remember, and I think you're better off to have some notes to help you along than getting just stuck right in the middle of the evaluation and go out at 1 minute, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Doug.
And that's true. It is much easier to do an evaluation in a contest. Honestly, it's really, you have a lot of time to practice and put your thoughts together.
If you are not the first one to go up.
If you're not number one, if you're number one, sorry, try again next
But
year.
also want to remind people, like, but I'd like to remind people the goal of evaluation, actually, the competition is actually the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
Like the rule is the club, and the goal of doing good evaluations is, remember, Toastmasters is a place to learn for life. We're not learning in Toastmasters for Toastmasters. We're learning in Toastmasters so we can take this outside into our jobs, into real life. And the goal of an evaluation, like the skill is teaching you, is to quickly consume information, order that information, and provide effective and good feedback based on that information. That's the actual skill you're trying to acquire. Like when you're doing evaluations, like doing a great Toastmasters evaluation means when you go into a business meeting, you'll be able to quickly assimilate all that information, order that information, and then actually give some feedback about that information. Like, what are your opinions and your thoughts? And so, yeah, it's always fun to, like, hey, how can I win a contest? But remember, actually, why we are in Toastmasters, we're actually trying to develop tools that can make us stronger in our careers and our lives and outside of Toastmasters, right? So I think, like, we also, like, just focusing on the purpose of the evaluation skill set. That's very important for me.
Well said, Paul. Well said, Paul. Okay, I think we have maybe one last question from Simone.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to share a tiny little thing that I've been practicing for probably 3 years. About 3 years ago, I gave myself a rule just for myself to improve my memory for evaluations. So I did not allow myself to write anything down or even or take any notes on stage. So
Wow.
the reason for that was simply to force myself to, like, to focus more when the speaker is speaking, and it really helped my memory and my focus, my listening skills. So I'm still doing that. I won't write anything. I won't take any notes. Of course, I don't have any notes. So it's worked for me because I have a short-term memory problem. So yeah, I don't know. It's a nice challenge to give to yourself, especially if you want to move on to contests. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Good challenge for everyone. Don't take notes and see what you remember. Okay, but it's a good challenge, and I think it takes practice. And the more you do it, I'm sure the more you remember. That's what they always say with everything.